Becky's not here.
You
Yeah.
can bring your own lunch.
I'll bring it next time.
There you are.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, we have a couple of unfamiliar faces here, ladies. Are you guests? Are you here permanently? Have you decided yet?
This is my first time on Big Friends of Karen.
Well, great.
My first time.
Okay, well, one, it's great to have you here.
Christine and Donna.
Christine and Don, there's snacks, there's coffee. As we get into the discussion, you are free to ask questions. You're even allowed to disagree with me. Because everybody else does too. It's nice to have you here. You make yourselves at home. Okay. All right. We are going to we're going to cover 3 chapters today in Isaiah, 33, 34, and 35, or however much we get through. Thank you. And today we're kind of wrapping up this first section of the book of Isaiah. You know, Isaiah is separated into different sections. This wraps up kind of the doom and gloom prophecy part of the book. And oddly enough, it wraps it up in chapter 35 on a very positive note. So it's kind of a transition, and then it gets into some historical stuff and then continues on. So after this week, we'll kick back into Luke for a while, and then we'll transition back into Isaiah further down the road. So we're going to look at start at Isaiah chapter 33. And I want to, kind of like I mentioned last week, I think, you know, we talk a lot about Isaiah is prophesying about things that are going to happen relatively soon from the time he's presenting God's prophecies. There are things that happen further down the road, and there are things that, you know, seem to apply to end times or our own time, you know, just, you know, further into the future. I want to look mostly at what we're looking at today in terms of the future beyond us now. I want to look not so much at how these things were and could be applied to Assyria or Babylon or, you know, the return from exile, but more, what does this say to us about what we anticipate in the future, God's kingdom going toward the end times. So I'm going to start chapter 33. The first verse there, woe to you, destroyer. Kevin kind of, you know, talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about the woes to this, woes to that. So I want to start with verse 2 in chapter 33. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, just some selected verses so we can get through this. Let's see, where am I here? But I'm going to read 2 through 14 at least. O Lord, be gracious to us. We long for you. Be our strength every morning, our salvation in time of distress. At the thunder of your voice, the peoples flee. When you rise up, the nations scatter. Your plunder, O nations, is harvested as by young locusts. Like a swarm of locusts, men pounce on it. The Lord is exalted, for he dwells on high. He will fill Zion with justice and righteousness. He will be the sure foundation of your times, a rich store of salvation and wisdom and knowledge. The fear of the Lord is the key to this treasure. Well, isn't that kind of call to mind? The fear of the Lord is what?
Your salvation is the beginning of
Is the beginning of wisdom. I mean, it's kind of, you know, there's some, you know, those verses there. It's kind of a positive note here compared to some of the things we've been reading here recently. He's a sure foundation. He's a rich store of salvation. He's wisdom and knowledge. And fear of the Lord is the key to this treasure, or beginning of knowledge, beginning of wisdom. Kind of a nice recollection of that. And then we kind of switch gears here in verse 7. Look, their brave men cry aloud. Okay, who's brave men? Assyria's brave men, Babylon's brave men of our enemies, the brave men of the enemies of God in the future, or maybe all of them. Their brave men cry aloud in the streets. The envoys of peace weep bitterly. The highways are deserted. No travelers are on the roads. The treaty is broken. Its witnesses are despised, and no one is respected. The land mourns and wastes away. Lebanon is ashamed and withers. Sharon is like the Arabah, and Bashan and Carmel drop their leaves. So keep Lebanon, Sharon, and Carmel in mind, because they're going to pop up again a little later on this morning. But for the time being, they're ashamed. They're withering. They've dropped their leaves. They're kind of desolate and barren. Now will I arise, says the Lord. Now will I be exalted. Now will I be lifted up. And then he says, you conceive chaff, you give birth to straw. Your breath is a fire that consumes you. The peoples will be burned as if to lime. Like cut thorn bushes, they will be set ablaze. Now, there's some great imagery in these chapters we're going to look at today. I mean, you conceive chaff and give birth to straw. That's quite a picture. That's quite a warning, or quite a prophecy. Again, however you conceive, whoever you think his audience is, whoever the object of this statement is, that's quite a promise of what's coming. You who are far away, hear what I have done. You who are near, acknowledge my power. The sinners in Zion are terrified. Trembling grips the godless. Who of us can dwell with the consuming fire? Who of us can dwell with everlasting burning? Okay, well, that's, consuming fire, everlasting burning, that calls to mind quite an image as well. And that seems very applicable to how we normally conceive hell, or, damnation, whatever phrase you want to use. But can't you just, verse 14 there, can't you kind of fill in the blank? Or don't you imagine being able to fill in the blank where it says the sinners in blank are terrified? Shouldn't this apply to any sinners anywhere at any time? Not just the sinners, whichever Zion he's referring to here. The sinners aren't sinners everywhere. Should they not all be terrified? Should they not all be trembling? Which of them can dwell with consuming fire? Which of them, whoever they are, whenever they are, who of them can dwell with everlasting burning? So it's kind of a universally applied description of sinners everywhere. Is kind of how I take it. That you can kind of characterize everybody like that. Okay, and then we switch gears again in verse 15. But he who walks righteously and speaks what is right, who rejects gain from extortion and keeps his hand from accepting bribes, who stops his ears against plots of murder and shuts his eyes against contemplating evil. This is the man who will dwell on the heights, whose refuge will be the mountain fortress. His bread will be supplied and water will not fail him. Again, applying that to the current times that he's speaking here, a reliable supply of bread, and, in an arid climate like Israel is, a constant, reliable supply of water. That's quite a promise. And again, we kind of picture that to ourselves. Do we take that as imagery or symbolic of our future as well? That if we walk righteously, if we speak what's right, if we do these things, will our bread, and is it just purely physical bread? Or is there some implication here, or some connotation of something beyond just physical needs? And this image of water as well is going to pop up again and again here as well. So keep that in mind. And so on. So continuing the good news here, your eyes will see the king in his beauty, view a land that stretches afar, and your thoughts you will ponder the former terror. Where is that chief officer? Where is the one who took the revenue? Where is the officer in charge of the towers? You will see those arrogant people no more, those people of an obscure speech with their strange, incomprehensible tongue. So that's where the strange speech, incomprehensible tongue, that's where a lot of commentators say, well, what he's talking about, the Assyrians are going to be gone. The Babylonians are going to be gone. All these foreigners who just, they speak these strange languages. But again, could it not be applicable to believers everywhere in the future, that everybody will be speaking the same language, essentially, that we'll all be one body. So that's, so that's kind of how I take it. It's applicable throughout all times. And then, then we get it gets kind of tricky here, a little more interesting, or not. It kind of a nice twist here in verse 20. Look upon Zion, the city of our festivals. Your eyes will see Jerusalem. Well, why does he use two different words to seemingly describe the same place?
All throughout what you've been reading, they've used Jerusalem when you've been saying Zion.
Well,
It's one
what
and
in
the
your
same.
translation?
Yeah, in my translation.
Yeah. So why do they use two different words? Now, we talked about that a little last week. In this particular case, in verse 20, it's a lot of commentators talk about this and they say, well, we think if you look upon, when it says look upon Zion, it's saying look upon, Jerusalem at that time, what it is at that time. But what you will see is the Jerusalem of the future, that in the future, and this is why Isaiah at this point uses two different words to describe the same place.
Power down.
Huh.
There we go. That was
You all been watching that this whole time? Do I need to start over?
I think that was Isaiah screaming.
That was Isaiah. Okay. So anyway, so it's thought it might be a reference to Jerusalem or Zion at different points of time. That here it is today, at that time, and here what it's going to be in the future. Because, and the reason for that, as we get into the verses here, verse 20, Jerusalem, a peaceful abode, a tent that will not be moved, its stakes will never be pulled up, nor any of its ropes broken. Okay, it's stable. It's going to stay there. Nothing's going to change things in that future Jerusalem. There the Lord will be our mighty one. It will be like a place of broad rivers and streams. No galley with oars will ride them. No mighty ship will sail them. For the Lord is our judge. The Lord is our lawgiver. The Lord is our king. It is he who will save us. Okay, well, Jerusalem's in the middle of the desert, right? What's with all the ships? Where's the sailing stuff coming from?
I hope there's kayaks.
Well, there'll probably be kayaks too.
Thank you.
In your Jerusalem, Liz.
Okay, thank you. I was worried.
That's your version.
Yeah.
I was
What
worried.
translation is that? Okay, so that's fascinating. Why all of a sudden are we shifting gears here and talking about ships in the middle of Israel? There's, why? Well, we don't know why, but it's thought.
You're honest.
Okay, fine. Hang on. I do not have a picture, sorry. Actually, I looked for some artwork because in chapter 34, basically it's talking about just horrible doom and destruction and desolation throughout the world. So any image you've ever seen of any science fiction movie about some future where the world is laid waste, just picture that. That'll suffice.
Can I?
Yes, you may.
This is the footnote from John MacArthur.
Okay.
It says, in her own strength, Jerusalem is as helpless to defend herself as a ship deprived of its ropes and pulleys to set sail.
Okay.
It's a simile. It's a simile.
Yeah.
Thank you. I feel better.
Okay. Well, that's it. See, I hadn't come right across that one. That because what I was seeing mostly was that they're talking about Jerusalem when, in the future, when God is when people put God in his proper place, it's as if Jerusalem is a city partly defended or totally defended by a river or canals or some water body and ships are powerless to get across. It's a moat, essentially, that the enemy is powerless. Whoever the enemy is powerless to get across the water and attack the New Jerusalem. That it's a fortification that can't be overtaken. But that's not to say that doesn't have that can't be part of it as well. Sherry?
On my Bible, it says either war is now absent or Israel needs no commerce because the Lord provides.
Okay.
Yeah, which is the
So my
legit-
Yeah.
question is who would be the enemy in the New Jerusalem?
Well, okay. Well, maybe I shouldn't have said New Jerusalem. Maybe the Jerusalem here, where God is where God is protecting, God is their means of defense, I guess. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense.
Existing
Not for me,
Jerusalem at the time.
because I
Yeah.
would have thought that would have been. I mean, what if he's established the New Jerusalem, right?
Yeah.
All of that has already
Yeah.
taken place, so there should be really no opposition.
Okay.
on
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, I
Well,
misspoke then when I said new. I shouldn't have said
So-
New Jerusalem. I should have said some future
Okay. It just-
Jerusalem.
it just-
I didn't. Yeah, that's a wrong connotation. You're right.
Well, but at the same time, it's evil would be the enemy. The way that they have done life to this point would be the enemy. So I do think that would be an enemy. But
At that time, though?
But if you have put everything, if you have in the New Jerusalem, God has conquered all evil,
Right.
okay? So what do you have left? You have this strong fortified city that God is in charge, and nobody would ever think about, let's bring evil back.
Right.
Yeah.
But there would be no reason though to have any need for fortification. But that's one of my, I don't want to go to, I don't want to take you down a rabbit, but that still is why they talk about the gates in the New Jerusalem, and I keep wondering, what are the gates for? I just don't understand. So anyway.
Well,
Okay.
later,
Just
he
curious how
uses walls,
the way to get
gates,
in.
fortified cities a lot. And one
Yeah.
of the things that's going to come up in later, it's like chapter 61, where he calls the gates salvation. He's already done that, but the walls salvation. He calls the gates praise. So it's basically, you want to enter into salvation, praise the Lord, enter in. That's the right way to come into God's presence, into his salvation. He's using metaphors.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not a realistic, it's not a real entity.
It's
then.
it's
That
hard
makes
to
more
say.
sense to me.
It's hard to say in Isaiah.
Okay. just
Okay.
It is.
Sorry.
Uh,
I
No,
took you
but
down
yeah,
further.
once I started thinking that I took it less literally than I did when I first started. I said, he's not talking about actual ships. He's talking about God providing protection, God providing for his people, I think is the way to approach it.
Okay.
Because then I didn't finish the phrase really. You're in verse 23. Your rigging hangs loose, the mast is not held secure, the sail is not spread. All reassurances that whatever form the enemy takes, whatever form opposition takes, they're not going to get through the defenses. And another connotation here. And it's also for Jerusalem. There's no river in Jerusalem. There's the water supplies, little trickly streams and wells and whatever. Nineveh had the Euphrates. Rome had the Tiber. Major cities throughout world history have major water bodies to provide water and also to provide defense. Paris was founded on an island in the Seine River because it was easy to defend. That whole thing. Jerusalem doesn't have any of that. So that's why it's just odd at first to look at Jerusalem being referred to as being a place of broad rivers and streams.
But I think what he's trying to say here is, with God in charge, things are going to be different.
Right.
Much, much different.
Right.
You're not going to look at this the same way if God's in charge.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, Miranda?
Maybe he's giving that as a metaphor too, to let people understand when that happens, they're gonna be safe and secure inside his fortification,
Right, exactly.
so.
And that's maybe more another way of being a more persuasive argument to encourage people to get back to their faith, to having faith in the Lord. Okay, so that's just a neat passage. The way different interpretations of that. Another connection I thought of, because I've been studying. We're looking at this, a small group I'm in. John chapter 4. Jerusalem is in the middle of the desert, and people rely on wells. So what happens in John chapter 4 is Jesus is going through Samaria, and he meets the woman at the well, and he talks about what? He talks about living water. He says, yeah, you've got this actual, but I have what? So it kind of calls to mind Jesus talking about he being the source of living water. And I couldn't help but make the connection. Here, God is being referred to as a source of, essentially a source of water as well. Water as a source of life or protection or whatever word you want to put to it.
Deeper
Hmm?
than Jacob's well.
Yeah.
That the source comes from deeper than where Jacob's well.
Right, exactly.
It's supposed to be a deep well.
And then chapter 33 kind of continues this optimistic language. Verse 24, no one living in Zion will say, I am ill. And the sins of those who dwell there will be forgiven. Okay, that's a little hint of the Messiah there. So that's great. So we're kind of shifting gears here. It seems like we've gone through all these prophecies about Egypt and Cush and Babylon and the exile, and we've kind of shifted gears here. We're looking ahead to something a little more positive, I guess, until we get to chapter 34. All right. Chapter 34. Come near, you nations, and listen, pay attention, you peoples. Let the earth hear and all that is in it, the world and all that comes out of it. Okay, so that right off the bat, this seems to be applying to who? Everybody.
He's no longer saying Zion or Jerusalem.
Yeah, this
He's
is
saying
all the nations, all the people, all the earth. Let the earth hear. And then verse 2, it makes it explicit. The Lord is angry with all nations, as his wrath is upon all their armies. He will totally destroy them. He will give them over to slaughter. Their slain will be thrown out. Their dead bodies will send up a stench. The mountains will be soaked with their blood. All the stars of heaven will be dissolved. The sky rolled up like a scroll. All the starry host will fall like withered leaves from the vine, like shriveled figs from the fig tree. Okay. That's pretty all-encompassing.
The next verse is pretty
Well, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
Just hang on. So it's, and all the commentaries, everybody said, yeah, he's talking to everybody. There's no real debate that I came across about who's he talking to. He's talking to everybody. And it's specifically, there's this imagery of stars of heaven being dissolved, the sky rolled up, the starry host will fall like withered leaves from the vine. That's thought by a lot of people to be referring, and not to specific individuals or specific kingdoms, but it's an imagery. It's kind of a way to say all the stars of the heavens, meaning all the kingdoms, all the princes, all the kings, everybody, everything is going to fall. Everything's going to be rolled up. Everything was going to wither and die. So that's kind of how everybody seems to take that. Verse 5, my sword has drunk its fill of the heavens, in the heavens. See, it descends in judgment on Edom, the people I have totally destroyed. And again, Edom here could be referring just to the Edomites. But there's a general consensus that I came across that Edom here is standing in, is symbolizing all the enemies of God. That whatever he says here about Edom, he's actually referring to all the enemies of God. The sword of the Lord is bathed in blood, it's covered with fat, the blood of lambs and goats, fat from the kidneys of rams. Again, and these are just typical sacrificial animals, that the Hebrews used in their ceremonies. Most people aren't seeing, well, lambs signify this person, goats signify. There are a few people who try that, but mostly it said he's just making a general statement that it's going to be like the Edomites or whoever you're putting in place of the Edomites. It's like they're just being sacrificed. It's just going to be a big bloody mess. They're going to be wiped out. The Lord has a sacrifice in Bozrah and a great slaughter in Edom. The wild oxen will fall. Now, okay, in verse 7, the wild oxen will fall with them. Do some other translations have some other animals listed there in verse 7?
And then young bulls, lambs and goats.
The troops of the nations, leaders of the nation.
The wild oxen will fall with them. Because there are some translations, originally it was thought, or some people take the Hebrew from this, and they actually use the word unicorns. And this is it's kind of an interesting thing. So you say, well, why would they be why would they use unicorns? And other translations have talked about wild oxen or a rhinoceros. Maybe it refers to a rhinoceros or some kind of an antlered antelope that has lost one antler. So it's got one, and everybody says that's a unicorn. Is maybe think that's why people refer to some animals as unicorns. I don't know. It's just an interesting way of different translations and different interpretations of what animals a translation lists here. We all get the idea. It's just an interesting aside that people put different animals in there in different translations, whether they're oxen or calves or bulls or unicorns or rhinoceros or an oryx or whatever you want to use. The idea is the same. So we get, where am I? Okay, let's go on to verse 9. So we've got this using this imagery of a sacrifice as these enemies are going to be, it's like they're sacrificed. They will be sacrificed. And then we get to some kind, sort of an ecological or an environmental aspect of this as well. Edom's streams will be turned into pitch, her dust into burning sulfur, her land will become blazing pitch. It will not be quenched night and day, its smoke will rise forever. From generation to generation, it will lie desolate. No one will ever pass through it again. And a lot of people comment on this, say it's the same thing that happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. It's the same kind of thing, the same kind of imagery that it's totally wiped out, and it will not ever regenerate or ever be revived. No one will ever pass through it again. And another interesting part of this aspect of this, if I can find it, yeah. Okay, where am I here? Oh, okay, I'm not there yet. Sorry. Verse 11, the desert owl and the screech owl will possess it. The great owl and the ravens will nest there. God will stretch out over Edom the measuring line of chaos and the plumb line of desolation. Well, that's a great phrase. And that just, it's this way, everything. But the other part of this is it's not haphazard. It's not just general chaos. It's not, what do you use a measuring line or a plumb line for?
Building.
To know what exactly where something goes. God isn't just saying, I'm just going to indiscriminate. He's saying, I know exactly who's going to be desolate, exactly where the chaos is going to reign. I'm going to measure it out. I'm going to plumb it, and it's going to be exactly where it needs to be. Which we visualize God as doing that anyway. but it's explicitly here that I'm measuring it all out. And if you don't meet these standards, you will be part of this. And the other thing about this, the measuring line of chaos and the plumb line of desolation is the NIV words. Chaos and desolation. Two Hebrew words, I call them tohu and bohu, however you actually pronounce them, is the Hebrew words there for chaos and desolation. Well, those are the exact same two words that show up in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1.
What country is Basra?
Now,
What country is Basra in?
it's not the current day Basra. I looked that up. Basra is way further east on the Persian Gulf. That Basra, it actually appears at several other times in the Old Testament. It's a city in Edom, south of Israel. Because I had that question too. Genesis 1:1, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. It's the same formless and empty that was before anything was formed, is what's going to happen to Edom or whatever place you're substituting in here for Edom. I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, Liz?
I can't help think when I read this, I think of the area around Chernobyl.
Oh, yeah.
It's only a place where the animals are. There's no people there, and all the
Yeah.
thorns and everything is overrun with it.
Right.
I can't help but think of very similar.
Well, and that's a great image. Because I said good place for a zoo. The only thing that's going to live there are animals.
Yeah. And
That's all it's good for.
and how it's all grown over in nettles and brambles for strongholds.
Yeah.
She will come a haunt for jackals.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's so similar.
All right, so God with his measuring line and plumb line is going to lay out exactly where the chaos and desolation is going to be. Her nobles will have nothing there to be called a kingdom. All her princes will vanish away. Okay, and then we're back to Chernobyl. Thorns were over in her citadels, nettles and brambles are strongholds. She'll become a haunt for jackals, a home for owls, and so on. It's good for the animals, and that's about it. And then in verse 16, it's like Isaiah steps back for a minute and he starts talking to us, or whoever in the future is reading what he's written here. He says, okay, now take a look. When he says, look at the scroll of the Lord, he means look at what I just wrote. Look at what God told me to write down and see if it didn't actually happen. Look in the scroll and read. None of these will be missing. Not one will lack or made, for it is the mouth that has given the order, for his spirit will gather them together. He allots their portions. They will possess it forever. Basically, God said it. I wrote it down. It happened. You can see for yourself today that it happened. Prove it for, go see the proof yourself that nobody's living there. And nobody is living there. Heather?
Talking about
Who are we talking about?
what is this about to us? What does, like 34, what is that saying to us? What do we?
Well, it's on the surface in verse 5, it says, my sword has drunk its fill of heavens. It descends in judgment on Edom. So at one level, you can say, well, he's talking about the Edomites. He's going to totally wipe them out. And I don't see any Edomites around today,
Which is the family of Esau.
which is descendants of Esau, right? Enemies of Israel.
Okay.
But literally every commentary I looked at said it's not just Edom. He's talking about, because it says in verse 1, all the nations, all the peoples let the earth hear. That he is saying this applies to everybody. Because in verse 2, the Lord is angry with all nations. So that's why, the scope and the scale of this, if you applied throughout the world, I don't know how you can conclude he's not talking about anything except some future event.
Yeah.
Right? That's my take on it.
Right. And is it, I always find that there's so many reminders that we are not in charge. We are not, it's not our, we are not the one who created. We are not, it's not up to us. Man starts to think that they are in charge. They start to, a lot of pride, and things and words like this remind you that we're not in charge, that there is a God and we're not it.
Right.
And so that I don't know what all to make of this, but certainly it reminds me of that.
Well,
I was gonna say, it says the sword of the Lord is drenched with blood and covered with fat. And then it says, with the blood of the lambs and goats, with the fat of rams prepared for sacrifice. Yes, the Lord will offer a sacrifice in the city of Basra. He will make a mighty slaughter in Edom. So is his destruction of the people of Edom a sacrifice?
Well, how
I don't know.
how are sins paid for?
With blood.
Through a sacrifice. If does it matter? Okay, it's a good question. Does it matter if the sin being sacrificed, if the sin being atoned by sacrifice was committed by the person being sacrificed? Is that not how unbelievers pay for their sins? If they haven't repented, if they haven't confessed, it's maybe they're not, sacrificed with a sword or on an altar, but are they not doomed to destruction?
When you kill, like let's say you kill with an arrow or a sword, you get blood on the arrow or on
Right.
the sword, but you don't necessarily get fat on it unless you're cutting
Right.
cutting the what you killed.
Right.
And so he's talking about the drenched with blood and covered with fat, meaning that he's not just going to kill the people; they're going to basically cut up the people.
Yeah.
In sacrifice.
Well, maybe that just, and maybe that just ties into this whole, to get across the idea of the degree of retribution coming on whoever is part of this sacrifice.
The land will be soaked with blood and soil
Yeah.
enriched with fat.
I got Lynn and then Jerry.
Is it going back to like with Abraham and Isaac and with Jesus on the cross, God provides the sacrifice?
Well, that's a good thought. Yeah, it could be. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. God has chosen who is the sacrifice.
I don't know.
And
Just a thought.
and a patient God has said, I've given you long enough. Now you're all going to be the sacrifice. Yeah. Jerry?
So Edom is isn't that where Petra is? In that area that kind of, so they're already told that they're kind of in trouble in Isaiah because they gave the Israelites trouble coming into the promised land.
Right.
And so, and then they sort of disappeared, and there was another there. That's where Petra. So you have this city that's right in the. It used to be a huge area for commerce, and then it lost all of that and sort of disappeared, right?
Yeah.
And so, they were given a different name during the time of Christ, right? So they finally disappeared. And Moab is just a little bit north.
Moab is northeast of there.
And they both kind of disappeared. They're all part of Jordan now. Right?
Yeah.
But you can go to Petra, and this is beautiful place, but there's nothing there. No one lives there.
Right.
It's desolate, right?
So it took a long time to actually for all this to, for them to disappear. But-
Yeah.
And in essence, because they treated the Israelites poorly when they came through, in the promised land.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and and it could, again, this is a case where, he's, again, the prophecy could have been applied in different ways at different times to different degrees. Take a step back. I mean, the scope of this, it seems to be worldwide from what we read in the first two verses. So that's why I kind of, it hasn't all happened yet. It may have, and who am I to say what God's going to do when he's going to do it? Maybe it's applied bit by bit over time. This was Edom's turn, and 500 years from now, someplace else. Who knows how it's going to be applied.
well, what's
In the
interesting when
future.
you read this stuff in Isaiah, when you go through it, you start to think about like books like the Book of Revelation, and you see that they use the same sort of terminology and the same. And so, if you're used to Isaiah, then Revelation makes a little bit more sense than if you're not used to Isaiah, because it's just what they use. I mean, in chapter 22 of the last chapter of Revelation, you were talking about the fact that how you have this language. Why do we have language where you think if God has done all he can do, no one's going to fight against him? But in chapter 22, everything's done for. The New Jerusalem's come down.
Right.
And then it talks about these other nations that are outside. And you think, well, they're gone. What's he talking about? So I think the language, it's the way they think about it. Even though they've conquered everything, there's still other people. How that works, I don't know.
Okay, well, see, I like that. That's great. You talk about a connection. What connection is there between Isaiah and Revelation?
Yeah.
So when we're done with this section, you are going to be assigned to do a study of the links between Revelation and Isaiah.
Have we got about 6 months?
Kevin will be giving you a call.
But the thing is, it's so interesting because
Yeah.
most people go to Revelation and then never read Isaiah.
Right.
So they're missing out on the things that,
No.
because the
that-
Jewish people, they would be steeped in this. They would hear this at the synagogue. They'd hear Isaiah. And so Revelation isn't as mysterious to them as it is to us.
That's a great thought. Yeah, Kevin.
I think the thing that I get out of this too is how, I think two things, how messed up the world can get when sin controls and how much God hates that. That he despises that. And he realizes how far away we drifted from his perfect intent for us. The thing that is beautiful about Isaiah, though, is he keeps, if you just listen to this judgment stuff, I'm not sure I would want to go to church every week and listen to this. But the beautiful thing about Isaiah is he keeps coming back to, but God's got a hope for you that's coming in the future. This is going to be made right. God's got a plan to make it all right because it is so messed up. You can't fix this.
Right.
It is so far off the tracks. You'll never get it back on the tracks again, ever. And I think that's the point of him just hammering this again and again and again. I hate what you've done. You're this way. I'm going to judge you. I'm going to, my sword's going to be soaked with blood and fat and everything else. And I'm going to sacrifice you because of what you've done. Okay. I've heard enough of that, but there is hope that he keeps swinging back to, and it's just kind of like in the middle of a chapter, in the middle of a verse, he'll boom, here's hope, but it's really, really bad, but here's hope again, and he just keeps swinging back and forth.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's been my take. It's this constant back and forth, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. Lynn?
But like Revelation, I think it tells us a couple of things. Some of it's figurative, some of it's literal. We may not ever understand which is which this side of heaven.
Right.
But God is great. God is in charge. He has a plan. If gonna happen his way,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
it's all about
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
majesty.
Yeah. Right. Jeff?
My Bible refers, 34:10 was the judgment of Edom will never end. The smoke is burning will rise forever. The Revelation 14:11 and 19:3. 14:11 basically says the smoke of their torment will rise forever and ever, and they will have no relief day or night, for they have worshipped the beast.
Okay.
And then 19:3 says, and again, their voices rang out, praise the Lord, the smoke of the city ascends forever. And the city they're referring to is Babylon.
Right.
So Edom and Babylon are being used as maybe under the same as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good connection, which to me says, again, it's not just local to that time. It's talking about time of revelation. Yeah. Did somebody else have their hand up? No. Okay. And back to Kevin's thought, God says, okay, it's gotten to the point where I'm going to do something. And that reminds me, we talk about when we studied the book of Judges, and Israel was into this cycle of, well, they're good, then they slide, and they get punished by being taken captive by some other country, some other empire, and then they're saved, and another judge arises and leads them to freedom again. But it's never to the scope of this kind of punishment. It's always, okay, well, try it again. Try it again. I forgive you that time. Try it again. And it's always this small scale kind of punishment. But at this point, again, God is saying, that's it. Whether he's talking to Edom or the rest of the world, this is the end of it, because I'm not giving you, there's no more chances. If you're with me, you're with me. If you're not, here you are. Mike?
We have to keep a perspective on what he's when he's talking about this, the exile, Babylon, Syria. I mean, I think, that's got to be part of his writing.
Yeah.
Because again, that was the end for Israel at that point.
Yeah.
When they were exiled to Babylon.
Right.
And everybody was doing their own thing by then.
Right.
As far as the evil in the world. There was no good, so to speak.
No, you're right. Because, there are reasons to say, well, he's talking about the contemporary situation as well. And actually, here in a minute, we're in chapter 35. At the end of chapter 35, there's some verses that kind of bring it back to where it seems more applicable to Israel in exile. So let's get to chapter 35. Okay, so 35. It's totally positive. Funny. I won't read the whole thing. Just for chapter 35. So after all of this judgment, this sacrifice, the desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom like the crocus. It will burst into bloom. Okay, we're back to Lebanon and Carmel. The glory of Lebanon will be given to it. The splendor of Carmel and Sharon. They will see the glory of the Lord, the splendor of our God. So these cities that 2 chapters ago were desolate and devoid of anything, they're back. They have splendor. They have glory. So things have been restored, which maybe that's talking about the restoration of Israel to the return of the exiles to Israel. Maybe it's that kind of restoration.
Or a lot of fertilization to the land.
Well, in Lebanon, Ohio, we used a lot of fertilizer in our cornfields.
I meant from the destruction of all the bodies.
Okay, strengthen the feeble hands, steady the knees that give way. Say to those of fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear. Your God will come. He will come with vengeance, with divine retribution. He will come to save you. Okay, he's coming to save you from exile, perhaps. So this is a little more explicit It seems that it could be talking really about the exile, Israel in exile, and that they will be returned. The eyes of the, in verse 5, the eyes of the blind will be opened, the ears of the deaf unstopped, the lame will leap like a deer, and the mute tongue shout for joy. That's straight out of the ministry of Jesus, really. Beyond just returning from exile in Babylon, the lame are leaping, the eyes of the blind are open. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. We're back to living water, perhaps. Burning sand will become a pool, the thirsty ground, bubbling springs. We're back to this water imagery. Water is plentiful in this new situation. A highway will be there. It will be called the way of holiness. The unclean will not journey on it. It will be for those who walk in that way. Wicked fools will not go about on it. No lion will be there, nor will any ferocious beast get up on it. They will not be found there. A nice straight highway that's safe to travel on. No dangerous animals, no dangerous people on it. Okay, and then we get perhaps again to the return of the exiles. Only the redeemed will walk there, and the ransomed of the Lord will return. That's verse 10. They will enter Zion with singing. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. So maybe that's the attitude of those who are returning to Israel. But can it not also be our attitude? At the end times, we will have everlasting joy with crowns on our heads. So that's just a great image to end up, to wrap up this section of Isaiah, that despite all the stuff, all the doom and gloom, that he wraps up chapter 35 on that kind of note. Heather?
What you just said, I'm like, could it also be in eternity in heaven, but only the redeemed will walk there, and those who the Lord has rescued will return. They will enter Zion with singing. Everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away.
Yeah. That's isn't that just a great language, a great image to wrap that up on. All right, that's what I got. Lynn.
Just one quick thought.
Okay.
In verse 8, it refers to those who walk in the way, and in my Bible, the way is capitalized, which was the church in the New Testament.
Right.
I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, mine is too. It's a specific. It can be taken as a specific reference. Yeah, great. Anything else? All right, let's have a word of prayer, and we will be on our way. Dear God, thank you for your word. Wow, that's great stuff. Help us to, glean out what we can that applies to us, what we need to understand from it. We're not going to understand it all, but to help us to just take it and apply what we can to our lives as it's needed. Be with us this week. Keep us all safe. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jen.
Wow.
What?
I didn't actually.
Yeah.
4 chapters.